This movie, I swear, was so fake and horrible that it was good. Like, it was so bad it was good. I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know how. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Lenny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So it is Pride Month, though I don't necessarily recommend this movie for Pride Month, so never mind. Today I want to talk about an older movie called G.B.F. Honestly, this is the first time I've watched this movie. I hadn't watched it back when it came out. So I don't have any nostalgia attached to it or preconceived notions about it. It kind of flew under the radar for me, which makes sense. It was a direct-to-TV movie for the most part. This actually started as a supplemental viewing for the movie Crush, which I reviewed recently. Crush was a recent teen movie released on Hulu that was starring and just had a lot of LGBT characters in the movie. I was kind of trying to think of other LGBT teen movies, and I saw G.B.F. was free on YouTube and on Amazon, so it's a very accessible movie, and I was like, well, let me just watch some of this after watching Crush and see if I can like compare it and draw on it. And I ended up not mentioning it at all in my Crush video. I have now finally finished it, and I wanted to talk about it because it's a really weird and interesting movie. Let me start with my usual question: is G.B.F. worth watching? This is a hard answer because this is a quintessential like bad movie. I would say. I mean, it's hard because now that I've seen a few interviews with the creator and the actors, I feel guilty and bad calling it that. It's like an indie production. It is very low budget. The taste level is a little questionable, but it is like the most perfect time capsule of the early 2010s. Like, if you want to know what the early 2010s look like being in high school, watching it now, I still felt very nostalgic about it because it felt like every character fell into Forever 21, rolled around, and got back up, and that was how they got ready for the movie. Like, it was peak Forever 21 fashion. That sort of sums up the whole aesthetic. The movie ended up growing on me. I definitely don't recommend it for like a wholesome queer story. It has a lot of heart, but it is more edgy and subversive, and a lot of it does not hold up in today's, more conscious culture that is trying to not be so offensive to at least marginalized groups. There is, a lot of homophobia, stereotypes, there's racism, a lot of microaggressions in every direction. So I definitely don't recommend it if you are sensitive and not in a good headspace to sort of view it from that time period, and like how it does feel like a movie that is subversive and it has the right idea, but it is very 2013, 2012. Now our media has moved past a lot of the things that are in this movie. So if that makes any kind of sense, I say it is worth watching if you are someone that loves pop culture or was in high school or middle school in the 2010s and want to see how culture has progressed since then. Otherwise, if you're just looking for like a great LGBTQ plus movie or just teen movie in general, it's probably not the one. It does not feel rated R though by today's terms to me. There wasn't like nudity. It was probably rated R due to like cursing, or maybe they were just like, this is too gay, rated R. It definitely felt more PG-13 vibes to me. This movie actually has a very interesting Rotten Tomatoes score. It has an 80% by critics, which I was shocked by, but that's the critic score, and the audience score is a 55%. I wonder if a lot of those scores, especially the critic scores, came at the time that it came out, and a lot of the audience score has evolved over time. Like, I feel like that's what makes the most sense to me. And at the time, it was seen as this like great representation for gay people, pushing boundaries, a very witty script. While now audiences, like, I saw some reviews on Letterboxd that are just like, this is stupid, it's all stereotypes, and really upset people. So I think the Rotten Tomatoes score shows how it has changed, and it has changed for the better, because I feel like we have so much LGBTQ plus media now that we can tell quality versus not, and we just have a more wider range of stories. So let me get into a little bit about G.B.F. and just the background, the cast, the crew. Apparently G.B.F., which stands for Gay Best Friend, it was inspired by a Teen Vogue article that actually said that a gay best friend is the hottest new accessory for the season, which is wild to me that that was a real article. But that article just goes to show that this movie, and a movie with this message, was a little bit necessary to fight back against that dumb message that the article is trying to say. So the writer of this movie, George Northey, wrote the screenplay, I think for like a workshop or conference situation. It was there that director Darren Stein found the screenplay. I think they called it Screenwriting Labs. I don't really know the screenwriting world too well, but that's how the director and writer kind of came together. And the director just said he found the script incredibly funny, and there is a lot of funny things to it. And it is a movie created by queer people. So the director is queer, and the writer, a lot of the cast that is playing queer characters is. Also, this movie does have a couple big names in it. Megan Mullally is in it, which I thought was so funny because I was literally watching this movie to compare it to Crush. And Megan Mullally plays the mom in Crush, who is overly excited that her child is gay, or just overly excited about sexual stuff. In this movie, she plays the mom of the best friend of the main character. So I'm loving Megan Mullally playing the anti-homophobic parent trope in all of these movies. And also Natasha Lyonne is in this movie, who I think she helped executive produce or produce on Crush. She was involved somehow in Crush too. She wasn't in it, but I think she was in the credits. So it's interesting how it's some of the same people. Maybe this type of movie was a stepping stone for them to create a movie like Crush that is a lot more wholesome and a lot more appropriate for today's time. G.B.F. came out in 2013, 2014. It was mostly straight to TV, though it did go to a lot of film festivals. I saw an interview with Darren Stein, the director, which it was so funny because it was such an old interview. It was from almost 10 years ago. It's just such a horrible setup of an interview. It's wild how far we have come as a society with like decent production value. Like almost everyone that makes any kind of content, has a ring light, has a mic. This interview is so funny because it's Darren Stein and the interviewer like on a couch together, and they're just in front of a huge sunny window, and the interviewer is like kind of nervous. I'm not really sure what this interview was for. The clip I found on YouTube was cut off, like it was just a segment of the interview. The guy interviewing him is like, so this is coming out on DVD, is it also going to include a digital copy? And Darren Stein is like, I'm not sure yet, actually. I guess that's a new thing now that we have digital copies. And the interviewer's like, I just really want the digital copy because I want to play it on my iPod. It's just, oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, because then I could get it on my iPod and just watch it all the time.
That interview was just deliciously awkward. I loved it. So like I said, this movie is a perfect encapsulation of the early 2010s, even with the cast, aside from the adults who are just like famous in their own right. Part of the cast was also the girl that plays Alison De Laurentiis in Pretty Little Liars. Sasha, is that her name? Sasha Peters. I freaked out when I saw her. I was like, oh my god, it's A. Also in this is Sasha Rockmore, who is on the Mindy Project. I mostly know her from that. Oh, she's in Precious, apparently. She's really funny in this. Also, Luna Lovegood is in this. Ivana Lynch, she plays a homophobe. So very different from Harry Potter. Also an American homophobe. And then JoJo's in this too, which I live for JoJo. I'm obsessed with her. Aquamarine is one of my all-time comfort movies. And in the main starring role was kind of a newcomer to the scene, Michael Willett, who plays the main character. And then Paul Iacono plays his best friend. So definitely an interesting cast. Definitely had my attention when I started watching it. So let me get into the discussion of this movie. I'm trying to be more organized about this, but I'm still working out what I want my structure to be. The base premise of the movie is that our main character named Tanner gets outed at his high school as gay. He was only out to his core group of best friends because there's no other gay boy at this school. The three queen bees and popular girls all want him to be their best friend because they read in Teen Vogue that the G.B.F is the hottest new accessory, which is the inspiration for the whole movie. So once Tanner is outed, he skyrockets in popularity. The three queen bees are vying for his attention. And the important aspect about this is that he has a best friend who is also gay and also just out to his friends, not out to anyone else, who dreamed of coming out in a very dramatic way, and it becoming a popularity thing for him. I really love Brent. I loved that his queen was Lindsay Lohan. Like, that is who he stands. I respect it fully. So as far as other characters, some important ones are the three queen bees of the school, and they rule over different factions of the school, which I thought was a way more realistic view of the most popular girl in school. In every movie, it's always like the one popular girl. High schools in the US are so big that you can't have one most popular girl in school. Like, you have the popular people within, you know, whole sections of the student body. So you have like the most popular girl with the football and dance and sports people. You have the most popular people in drama or band or the art. Well, the art kids are never popular. I would know, I was in that group. So the queen bees that we have, this is reminiscent of the introduction to the Mean Girls in Mean Girls, which Mean Girls was obviously a big inspiration for this movie. A lot of people on reviews were saying they should have called this Mean Gays. And the premise is very similar, loosely, in that someone that didn't want to be popular gets thrust into the popularity a pipeline and is made over into a popular person, and then becomes kind of a bad person and has to realize and make things right. And there's a lot of parallels with the general base plot. However, these queen bees are not a clique together like in Mean Girls, and they rule over different parts of the school, and they're actually rivals, you know, in general. First, we have Caprice, who rules over the drama club and also the minority students. Poor Caprice has to deal with so many microaggressions throughout this movie. Obviously, it's her comedic purposes, and it does not age well at all. But in general, she is the drama. She is also in choir, so singer, actress. And then we have Shlee, who rules over the Christians, which that makes sense. She's super Mormon, and she's very ditzy and dumb. She's kind of similar to Karen from Mean Girls. Although Shlee is kind of trying to have Tanner as her G.B.F, she's kind of conflicted because she is Mormon and they obviously believe in hell to the gays or whatever. And then finally we have Fawcett, who is technically the most popular girl in school. She's like the fashionista type. She's rich, she's popular, she's fatphobic, of course. And this is the one played by Allison D, our good old friend. So those are our queen bees that are going to fight over Tanner. But before they fight over Tanner, we're introduced to Tanner and Brent's friend group, Sophie and Glenn. Yeah, Glenn, who I found Glenn to be an interesting side character and an interesting representation to put into this movie. There occasionally will be just those men that are straight and they just are a little bit flamboyant. The whole movie is trying to push this message of just because you're flamboyant doesn't mean you're gay. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're flamboyant. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're anything. But it goes the other way. Like, just because you're straight doesn't mean you can't be flamboyant or feminine. Sophie, I'm not sure if her sexuality is queer or not. I think they imply it a lot. I don't know if it ever got confirmed. And then also as this other side character who's not in the Queen Bees and not in the friend group is Soledad, who is played by JoJo. She is the leader of the GSA, but she can't find any gay person to be in her GSA because no one is out at their school. And she's just trying to find a gay person so that their GSA gets like legitimized. She's really trying to fight for the LGBTQ plus people, but in this weird selfish way where she's really just trying to get attention. Soledad is trying to make this her personality, being like the straight ally. That's another nuanced character that I feel like it's real. And this movie, I swear, was so fake and horrible that it was good. Like, it was so bad it was good. I don't know how. The acting felt like it was so bad I believed it. I don't know how to describe this. Anyway, so those are all our characters, and we also have Brent's mom, who is just this funny comedic relief. Megan Mullally is amazing at this. She is trying to get Brent to come out, but he hasn't come out to her yet, and she's trying to just be clear that she's cool with it, but without, saying it out loud or saying it directly. It's funny, Brent's mom offers them poppers, and she offered that to her daughter in Crush as well. So this movie is full of crazy dialogue. Like, the screenplay for it is wild because it is very hit or miss. It is very funny in parts, and then it's very problematic. Like, they talk about send something to neighboring third world countries, and they always call Tanner a mo. Like, homo. The 2010s and the 2000s were such a wild west because we had social media, but we had no accountability. I don't even know. It's funny, they make a joke in the beginning about how Caprice tried to make a Mean Girls musical, which is cool that they're referencing Mean Girls, which is a big inspiration for them, but also it's funny because they joke about it as if it's like this horrible idea, but they ended up making a Mean Girls musical, like, on Broadway, I'm pretty sure, and it must have been after this because it was seen as like this big joke. It's real, girl. Also, they do have a stand-in for Grindr at the beginning that they introduced called Gaydar. Brent and Tanner make a Gaydar profile under Tanner's name using Tanner's abs and on Tanner's phone, even though it's a Brent that just wants to browse like who's there. So they're just kind of goofing around on there, not actually trying to find a hookup just yet. Soledad, JoJo's character, finds out about this app and uses it to try to find any gay kids at the school. And that's what leads her to Tanner's phone and outs him in front of everybody. So that's where our movie gets going, and our protagonist's life changes for better or worse. And they do make a point about how outing people is not a good thing. When Tanner gets outed, Soledad has a lot of disappointment looking at him because he dresses pretty drab or basic. He's not like sassy or flamboyant, so Soledad is kind of disappointed, and it's like, but you're not even fabulous. She says something like that, and he's just like annoyed. And that's the beginning of everyone kind of treating him like he should be a certain way but isn't, and is disappointing them. Tanner is super pissed about getting outed, rightfully so, but he is blaming it all on Brent because Brent is the one who made him make the Gaydar profile. He should be directing at Soledad because she's a fucking bitch that outed him. He blames Brent, and it's here where they have a big fight and are just in a fight for most of the movie after this. Tanner famously says, "You can't no homo this, Brent." The acting in it is just so funny. Like, it is camp. It's aware of the joke. And when I first started the movie, I was really like, is this movie aware of the joke or not? Like, is it trying to be serious and failing, or is it on purpose, like a parody or caricature of people? And I think it's the latter. I think it was aware, and it's almost kind of brilliant for that, but I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm saying this movie's brilliant. Tanner actually gets so mad at Brent that Tanner then outs Brent to his mom. That's part of their big fight. Like, they just both hurt each other in certain ways. This is where Tanner goes his own way and ditches his friends. The main popular girl named Fawcett actually saves Tanner from getting bullied because he's getting already bullied for being out. And when she steps in, the other two queen bees also come, and they're all vying for Tanner's attention. He hangs out with all three, and they try to recruit him. This movie does use the F slur as well, so trigger warning for that, honestly. So after these girls try to find out about Tanner and are also disappointed that he's not fabulous, like the guys on Bravo, as Fawcett says, they decide to give him a makeover. They're like, well, if you're not going to be fabulous, we're going to make you fabulous. We even get a voiceover of Tanner saying, it was a straight up makeover montage situation. That's why I'm saying the movie threw in enough things where I was like, okay, it's aware of the joke. It's in on the joke. It's not bad on accident. It's bad on purpose. Or it's campy on purpose, I should say. Bad and campy to me almost mean the same thing. But in a good way. in a good way. I love bad movies. I love campy movies. So the obstacle now is that all the 3 of the queen bees want to be prom queen at the end of the year, and Tanner is a shoo-in for prom king. Because everyone thinks he's fabulous. Not just the 3 popular girls. Everyone in school is like, cool. Especially after his montage, he has, of course, a slow-mo reveal. It's very Mean Girls, like the trash can scene. But there's no trash can in this one. But they dressed him up, made him look like, I don't know, some guy on E! Tanner is in the running for prom king now, but the 3 queen bees are splitting the student body, and they're fighting for the prom queen title. Fawcett is definitely in the lead in general. She seems to know the best ways to get Tanner on her side. She kind of cultivates a deeper relationship with him, sort of, but at the same time is very much like treating him as an accessory. She's just like calling him bitch all the time. She says she loves labels like Chanel or gay. I really didn't like Fawcett as a character. It felt weird that like Tanner was excited about her attention, but you see the conflict. He sees that she's treating him like an accessory, but is kind of like also enjoying some of the attention here and there. Finally, Fawcett and him have a vulnerable moment, and I was glad for this, but it didn't make up for how much she had treated him like an object this whole time. She reveals that she's good at chemistry to him. So vulnerable. It's from there where they start developing a little bit of a genuine friendship, despite there's a lot of issues with it in general. Shlee, on the other hand, she's the Mormon. She is trying to convince Tanner to join Mormonism or to convert, or I don't know what she's trying to do actually. No, she invites Tanner over for dinner with her and her boyfriend, who is a closeted Mormon guy. She takes Tanner in the bathroom and is like, you need to give me sex advice, because that's what a G.B.F would do. And he's just like, leave me alone, I'm actually trying to pee. So Fawcett is trying to use him for fashion advice, Shlee is trying to use him for sex advice, and Caprice is trying to convince him that they would be the best couple for diversity, because blonde white girls have been winning prom queen this whole time, and you know, straight guys for prom king, and Caprice and Tanner would be a great duo to represent and change the narrative of the prom king and queen. And she actually makes an okay point, and Tanner is into it too. He's like, you make a good point actually. Also, Topher, who is Shlee's boyfriend, the Mormon guy, he keeps trying to make a move on Tanner. He's honestly just horny, and the Mormon characters were honestly really funny in this because they were really making fun of them. Sorry to the Mormons, but they were making fun of y'all. Both of the Mormons were very slutty and horny all the time, and Topher essentially sexually assaults Tanner by forcing himself on him. Tanner luckily runs away. Later on, Topher tries it with Brent as well, but once he finds out he's sloppy seconds to Tanner, he's like, no, never mind. Caprice also tries to win over Tanner by giving him a date to prom, who's like a hot British guy. I think he was old though, which is kind of creepy. At some point they have a party, and Shlee, who's the slutty Mormon girl, she hooks up with Glenn, who, if you don't recall, Glenn is the straight friend that is a little bit feminine and everyone assumes is gay. The big midpoint conflict of the movie is that Tanner is trying to bring his new date to prom, who is a man, and Luna Lovegood, or whatever her name is, I don't remember her name, Luna Lovegood is like, no, we're homophobic and only boy-girl couples at prom. This makes Tanner outraged, and Fawcett, in order to get close to him, tries to fight for his rights. So she joins the GSA, tries to fight against this homophobic prom committee. What ends up happening is that Fawcett decides to throw her own prom that is inclusive. Because Fawcett joined the GSA and tried to stand up for Tanner's right, Tanner accidentally endorses her for prom queen. So the lines are drawn in the sand of who he endorsed and who's in the running for prom queen. However, because they're doing their own inclusive gay prom, the regular school prom's queen is still up for grabs. So Caprice sees that opportunity and wants to be the queen of the regular prom, even though it's homophobic. She approaches Brent and is like, you know, you need a diva to worship, and I know you're gay. And Brent is like, no, I'm not. But she still adopts him as her G.B.F. It's kind of confusing. He's like pretending to be straight this whole time, but he's still acting kind of as a G.B.F to Caprice. Because Brent is trying to get some of the success that Tanner is getting and also wants a piece of the popularity pie. So the two proms are fighting. They're all trying to get the coolest kids at their prom. Eventually, the regular prom gets disbanded because they start fighting with signs to promote each other's proms, and you know, they make homophobic signs because they're the homophobic prom, and they get in trouble and they actually call off that prom. So I was confused. I was like, are we gonna have just two proms in this teen movie? Okay. But no, the alternative prom becomes a real prom, which is just like, just kick out the organizers, the regular prom. It doesn't make sense. It feels just like a regular prom at the end. But it's the gay one that prevails. Since Caprice and Brent are working with Luna Lovegood this whole time, there's a one point where she calls Caprice her sassy black friend SBF. Just goes to show like nobody is safe in this movie from being tokenized. The movie is trying to make a message about it. I don't think the movie is trying to perpetuate these stereotypes. They're trying to say these stereotypes are stupid and tokenizing people is a bad thing to do. So they have the message in the end. It's just a lot of things are a little questionable. So by the end, all of the three popular girls have their own G.B.F, but not really. So Fawcett got Tanner, Caprice has Brent, who is still closeted at this point, and Schlee has Glenn, who is actually straight, but he keeps telling her he's straight, and she's like, haha, you're funny, you're gay, I know. Since he's getting kind of laid, he's like, okay, whatever you say, I'm sure I'm gay. That whole thing is a mess. Finally at the prom, as expected, Fawcett and Tanner win prom queen and king. When Tanner wins the prom king crown, he gives a speech very much like Mean Girls, and they actually reference it because Brent is a Lohan stan. Brent is like, he's going full Lohan. He gives a speech, says he misses his friends, you know, just sums up the movie and the feelings he's had of being tokenized as a gay person. He's just a regular person. It's definitely a different speech from Mean Girls, where the point was to stop fighting for no reason with other girls at school or being a mean girl, basically. So because Tanner has made amends with his friends and said he missed them, Brent and Caprice had set up this glitter bomb that was gonna fall on Tanner and embarrass him, which I don't think that's that embarrassing. Maybe it's a bitch to clean out, but otherwise, that's kind of a fun prank. After Brent hears his speech, though, he dives and pushes him out of the way for the glitter, and it all falls on him. And for some reason, this also was equivalent to him coming out, so Tanner in the voiceover was like, Brent came out in the way he always wanted, this dramatic, fun, and glittery way. So we finish up the movie with Tanner giving a voiceover of like the lessons learned from the movie. A lot of it, he's comparing being in the closet to being in high school, how it's like a place you don't want to be and you want to leave already, but you're scared of what lies beyond, things like that. And ultimately the message of the voiceover is like, it gets better once you're out, once you leave high school. Tanner and Brent do have a heart-to-heart at the end when they're dancing, and they kind of make a meta reference of like, oh, if this was a teen movie, we would kiss right now and end up together. But they had kind of flirted earlier in the movie. They had had a moment where they reconnected, even though they were rivals, like in the school society. They were really drunk, and this drunk scene was honestly so real feeling. Something about the acting in this movie, it felt like real, like it felt like high school for me. I don't know what it was. Tanner and Brent have this drunk argument, or drunk conversation, it's not an argument, and they end up kissing and kind of hooking up. I don't think it's clear if they hooked up or not. They just wake up in the same bed, so they can't remember, so we never get confirmation, but they potentially hooked up, but at the end they don't end up together because they're like, we're exploring our sexuality and we don't want to sacrifice our best friendship. So that was the movie and the trajectory of it, and it was a wild ride. Like, I was shocked by how much I enjoyed it in the end. I mean, obviously watching it with the lens of like, this, if this were made today, this would be a very different review from me. I think it would feel very outdated, but something about it just feels like a perfect time capsule of just that time where LGBTQ plus representation in media was just like picking up steam. It's so sad when I think about how recent marriage equality was, how it's under threat now, which is sad. This movie was pre-marriage equality. Like, that conversation was still very heavily debated in government and whatnot. So it's a subversive movie for the time that it was. It was probably made in 2012, came out in 2013. That's exactly the years I was in high school, and I was the age of the kids in this movie, or the characters. So looking back on it, it feels like it was good for its time. It was campy, and it was aware of the problematic things in it. There are some problematic things in it that I think are in poor taste just for comedy and jokes, but other parts of the problematic elements, like the homophobia that the main character experiences, or like the expectations that he should be fabulous, and the homophobic things that Soledad or the popular girls tell him. The movie is trying to comment that those things are homophobic, despite those popular girls not realizing that they are being homophobic and just rude in general to this person and not treating him like a human being. And that's overall the lesson, that it's just like gay people are normal, which now feels like a given, but back then it was so much more just something that hadn't been shown in media. Also, centering coming out a lot is now frowned upon with LGBTQ plus media. It's been explored a lot in media already, and people just want to see just regular stories about LGBT characters now. So it's definitely interesting, and G.B.F. kind of won me over. It's the type of movie I feel like watching with friends or watching with other pop culture nerds would be really, really fun, because it'd be interesting to pick apart the 2010s of it all and how far we've come. But yeah, all in all, it was horrible, but great. It's just the perfect bad movie. I would love to hear your thoughts on G.B.F. As a teen movie. What do you think? Have you seen it? You can watch it for free, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. You can follow me at miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!